Welcome to the episode of Jay Leno's Garage. Today we're featuring another one of our wonders from the Petersen Automotive Museum in Los Angeles. This is not only a Ferrari, which makes it rare, it's original paint, original tires. Nothing has been changed in this car since 1952 when it was built. And it has a fabulous story. It was given to someone quite famous as a gift from Enzo Ferrari, and it now belongs to the Petersen. And to tell you more about it, let's meet Leslie Kendall. He's the chief curator for the Petersen Automotive Museum. Leslie, how you doing?
Hey, Jay, what a
wow,
pleasure.
this is something. I remember hearing about this car and reading about it when I was a kid, so we're in suspense. Who is the special celebrity?
The special celebrity was Henry Ford II. This is during a period when Ferrari and Henry Ford were trying to think about how to merge the two companies.
You know, I didn't realize, I knew in the late 50s and early 60s there was talk of it, and then they began to hate each other, and then of course Le Mans, and he was going to win Le Mans and show Ferrari and all that kind of stuff. I didn't realize that Ford was trying to court favor with Ferrari as early as 1952, because Ferrari had only been in business really since what, 46, 47?
Yeah, 46, 47.
Okay.
They started in earnest. But Ford was always aware of Ferrari. Ferrari was always aware of Ford. They were both at the top of their respective ends of the spectrum.
And this is a Barchetta, is that correct?
It's called a Barchetta, which means little boat in Italian.
Okay. And it's a 212, and this would be a V12 engine, correct?
It's a V12 single overhead camshaft per bank of cylinders. But this engine is not a 212 engine, it's a 225,
Okay.
which makes it a 2.7 liter. It's a racing engine. Enzo Ferrari wanted Henry Ford to have a racing engine in his otherwise stock 212.
Right. Now, interesting because it has white wall tires, which I have never seen on a Ferrari before. Was that common?
It was not uncommon for even the most exotic of foreign cars to have white wall tires when they were imported to America.
Yeah, because we Americans like stupid white walls.
We love white wall tires, we
Yeah.
like chrome, we like all those kinds of things. Also, this may have very well have been the first Ferrari to have left-hand drive.
Oh, is that right?
Because again, this is going to an American customer.
Now, I remember rumors when I was a kid about this car that this kind of is what led to the Thunderbird coming from Ford. Is there any truth to that? Or is that one of those old wives' tales?
I don't think it's an old wives' tale. I think there's a great deal of truth to it. We have in our archives a photograph of this car next to an MGTC, next to a styling buck of the Thunderbird. And it shows that they were at least aware of this car and they were conscious of it. I don't know how many of the styling affectations on this car made their way to the Thunderbird. Perhaps the routing of the exhaust pipes through the body.
Right.
The egg crate grille certainly ended up on the Thunderbird, a version of it.
Yeah.
And maybe a couple of other details.
But the wire wheels and the no exterior door handles.
This car is a true roadster. It has no provision for weather protection, whatever. No top, no side curtains, no windshield wipers, nothing. No outside door handles, like you mentioned. You have to reach on the inside and open it up if you want.
And this stitching here, this looks like something Gene Autry or Roy Rogers would have had done, you know? I mean, it looks sort of like that 1950s cowboy thing. Dun, 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 dun. This does not look Italian at all, but that's original, isn't it?
But it's absolutely original to the car, untouched. But that's one of the styling cues of Ferrari Barchettas. Most Barchettas, they had that. They had the upholstery that kind of spilled over to the outside.
And how many Ferraris were they building a year in 52? Not many,
They were
correct?
building penny numbers of
Right,
Ferraris
yeah.
in that time. Ferrari was making their mark, but it was very, very slowly. And this was also a day when they're the only V12 on the world market.
Sure. Now, another thing I heard was that Enzo Ferrari was so, as a young man, was so taken with the Packard V12, the twin six, that he patented his first engine after that. Is that correct?
To my knowledge, it is.
Yeah.
Enzo Ferrari admired the Packard V12. He admired the capabilities of that engine, and he said, "You know what? The French ass I get, I'm making my own V12," and he
Right.
did, a little 1.5 liter.
Well, let's go around the back and take a look at the rear end, as you mentioned. Now, that seems so American, the tailpipe coming through the fender. Do you think that was done because Henry Ford was an American and Enzo wanted to have some American touches on it? Or do you think that was just what they did?
I think that's something that they were doing to capture the attention of Americans.
Okay.
Italians always seem to have had one eye on America and the other eye on European, and they adapted and adopted a lot of American design cues in some of their styles.
Is this a one-off? Is this the only car like this? that
This is
exists?
the only car. This is it. It's a
Wow.
one of a kind. You can tell it's a little bit of a longer wheelbase than you would expect for a Barchetta. That's because it was originally supposed to be a 3-seater. The cockpit was actually
I see.
supposed to extend as far back as the trunk to allow for a side-facing rear seat.
Now, normally I don't ask this because it's not what the website's about, but I just see Ferraris going for 27 million, 25 million dollars, something like that. What would the value of this be? Would it be 10, 15, 20? I have no idea. I mean, it seems like given to Henry Ford by Enzo himself, all original. This must be one of the most valuable Ferraris in the world. No?
Well, it's certainly valuable to historians because of its provenance, because of its originality. If you're going to restore anything like this is probably the car you're going to want to look at to compare it against.
Can we open the hood and take a look?
Oh, I'd love to.
Wow. I mean, that is about as pretty a motor as I've ever seen.
Here it is, 2.7 liters of
Right.
automotive jewelry.
Look at that. It really is.
3 Weber carbs. This is a performance car. It doesn't even have a fan in it. There's no fan, so you're not going to, hopefully you're not going to be spending a lot of time at red lights.
So you have 2 mechanical pumps on each side,
2 mechanical pumps,
2 ignitions.
2 ignitions, and yeah, driven off the camshaft,
Right.
the front of the camshaft. Generator in the front.
And a pretty thick radiator. Look at that. That's much thicker than any radiator I've seen.
Which is not a bad idea considering the lack of fan.
Right, yeah, yeah.
Gives that circulation.
And it's amazing how small the header pipes are compared to an American car, the period with the big, the big massive headers. These just look like small little tubes coming down the side.
Yeah, well, Ferrari was the equivalent of a scalpel where the Americans used a machete.
Right, right.
So he was very, very technical and he was really paid attention to the details.
You know something? I think it's time to go for a ride. Wow. There was nothing American that sounded like that. Boy, this engine just sings. I mean, it's 1952, 12-cylinder. What's amazing is how surprisingly modern this car feels. Doesn't sound like any Packard V12 I ever drove.
I was amazed to hear that to learn that Ferrari was inspired by Packard.
Yeah. But everybody was inspired by somebody.
You're right.
Bugatti was inspired by Miller.
Yep.
And everything came from Peugeot. It all started with Peugeot. And like Americans, Ferrari stuck with drum brakes long after they lived out their usefulness. He was not a very progressive guy, live axle, big engine. He was kind of American in his thinking. But it's funny, different countries build different engines for different reasons, and it's usually tax reasons.
Yep.
For example, in England, they taxed you by the size of the bore. So consequently, you have a small bore and a long stroke.
Right.
They have these big torquey motors. In Italy, you got taxed by the displacement. So you could have a small engine, but high revving to make up the difference.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it all comes back to, it's all taxes. Oh, listen to that sound. It's like an Italian opera. I'm keeping an eye on our water temperature because we have no fan here, but it looks like we're pretty good.
It's as long as you're moving and there's some flow through the radiator, you're fine.
Aqua Fresca is fine. Listen to that sound. Remember, I'm on 1954 tires, so we're taking it easy. But you can't resist. Got your arm out the window here.
Probably put most of the 12,000 miles on the first set of tires.
Yeah. What happened to it after 54? Did Ford put it in like Greenfield Village or something?
Yeah. Well, Ford stored it, and it actually did end up in the sports car show that the Henry Ford Museum did every so often. It was actually the feature car in, I believe it's Sports and Classic Car magazine.
Yeah.
It had like a 6-page color spread.
Wow.
And at the very end it says the car is available.
Well, there's nothing like an original car. Everything just sinks together. You drop down a gear. Listen to that sound.
Everything fits.
Yeah.
All the parts have settled.
Yeah, yeah. The only thing holding this car back are these tires. They're 1954. If it wasn't for them, we could be going 100 miles an hour right now.
At
You know,
least.
boy, it just drives nicely, and it's so pure, naturally aspirated, no catalytic converters, no nothing. It's just all engine. It's fantastic. You know, so many people like the F40 and the Enzo, but this is such pure Ferrari. You know, Bill, a young company, a young guy. Imagine Ferrari giving away
right.
cars to impress people.
Yeah.
I mean, to me, that's always the most exciting part of a company's life. You know, Porsche in the 50s, seeing those guys hand making those 356 coupes and whatnot. You know, even a company like Tesla or even McLaren, you know, being brand new and they want to get their product out there and they're building the best possible machine they can because they want to impress people, as opposed to, no, let's see, we don't want to go that way. It's going to cost us too much money. You know, it was damn the cost and full speed ahead.
It's like they're building it for themselves. This is my car. I'm gonna build it my way. I'm gonna take my time with it. I'm gonna perfect it.
Imagine driving like this through the south of France or through up the Amalfi Coast. Oh my God, how amazing!
Yeah. You drive up to the Grand Casino in Monaco.
Yeah, exactly. Very torquey motor. And what was the horsepower rating on this? Do you know, about 170?
I'd say that. Yeah, it's a racing. It's a 170, 180.
Yeah. Wow, what an incredible piece of history this is. I mean, just the Henry Ford connection and the Ferrari connection. Back in the days when Ferrari was giving away cars. You like it? Here's one for you. Imagine that nowadays. Oh my God. So again, you can see this actual car at the Petersen Automotive Museum. It's on display. And you can see it's not some static thing that just sits there with ropes around it. They get out and they drive it and they use it. And go down and take a look at it. Take a picture of it. It's a fascinating piece of history. You can see a Ferrari exactly as it was built by the factory. Every wire, every switch is exactly as it was when it was new. Leslie, thank you so much. This
Jay,
was
what a pleasure.
The treat of a lifetime. We'll see you guys next week.
Mm-hmm.